Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're going to unpack one of the most influential theories ever about how we become who we are. And spoiler alert, it's a journey that lasts your entire lifetime.
So let's just jump right in with a pretty huge question. Who are you, really? I mean, it's something we all think about at some point, right? This search for who we are, our identity, in this crazy, complex world.
Well, for one super influential psychologist, this wasn't just some philosophical question. No, it was a full-blown crisis. And that very personal struggle, it became the foundation for a revolutionary theory about how all of us, you, me, everyone, develops our identity.
All right, so let's get into it. To really get his ideas, you've got to understand the man himself, Erik Erikson. His own story is the key that unlocks everything.
So get this. Erikson's entire childhood was basically defined by feeling like he just didn't belong. He was born in Germany to Danish parents, but his biological dad was gone before he was even born. He was raised by his mom and his Jewish stepfather. But here's the twist. He looked totally Scandinavian, tall, blonde, blue-eyed. So when he went to the synagogue, he felt like an outsider. And then in his German community, his Jewish upbringing made him feel like an outsider there too. You could just imagine this constant feeling of being the other guy is exactly what fueled his life's work on what he would later call the identity crisis.
Okay, so this personal search for who am I led him to challenge some of the biggest names and ideas in psychology. And he started with a big one, the ego.
And this is where things get really interesting. It's a huge break from the thinking of the time. See, his mentor, the famous Sigmund Freud, saw the ego as this kind of weak referee, always stuck between our primal urges, the id, and our morals, the superego. But Erikson, he was like, no way. He saw the ego as a positive, powerful force. For him, the ego isn't just defensive, it's proactive. It's the very core of our strength, the part of us that actively helps us adapt, grow, and build a solid sense of who we are.
And he didn't think this development was just random either. He came up with something called the epigenetic principle. Now that sounds complicated, but the idea is actually beautiful. Think of it like a flower blooming. Your personality unfolds in a set sequence, petal by petal, stage by stage. Each part of your life builds on the one that came before it, following this kind of universal blueprint.
So what is this blueprint? What does this map of our lives actually look like? Let's check out the 8 stages of life.
Yep, Erikson laid out 8 distinct psychosocial stages. And here's another key difference from Freud, who was pretty much all about childhood. Erikson said, hold on, we don't stop growing and changing when we're kids. He argued our development is a lifelong process, from our very first breath to our very last.
So each of these stages has what he called a psychosocial crisis. Now, crisis sounds bad, but it's not a disaster. It's more like a fork in the road, a turning point. Let's run through them. It all starts at birth, right? Stage 1, trust versus mistrust. Basically, can I trust the world? If your needs are met, you develop hope. Then, as a toddler, it's autonomy versus shame. Can I do things myself? This is where we develop willpower. Fast forward a bit, the teen years. This is the big one he's famous for. Identity versus role confusion. Who am I? Who can I be? Figuring that out gives you fidelity or loyalty to yourself. And it doesn't stop there. As a young adult, you face intimacy versus isolation. Can I love? In middle age, it's generativity versus stagnation. Can I make my life count? And on and on. The idea is, if you successfully navigate the challenge of each stage, you gain a new psychological strength, a new virtue that carries you forward to the next one. It's a brilliant framework.
So you might be wondering, how did Erikson come up with all this? Well, his methods were just as revolutionary as his ideas. This was not your typical distant psychoanalyst sitting silently behind a couch.
No, Erikson was all about connecting with people on a real, human level. He insisted on face-to-face therapy, treating it like a partnership. When it came to kids, he used play therapy. He knew that for a child, playing with toys wasn't just fun. It was how they made sense of their world, worked through problems, and built a vision for their future. He even analyzed dreams, not as some dark secret, but as a creative tool for problem solving. And, get this, he even combined psychology with history to study major historical figures.
He called it psychohistorical analysis. And he looked at the lives of really influential and very different people, like Muhammad Gandhi and Adolf Hitler. He wanted to see how their personal identity crises, their own journeys through these stages, ended up shaping the course of history for literally millions of people. It's a fascinating idea, right? Okay, so we've looked at the man, the theory, the method,
But what does this all mean for you? What's the big takeaway for your own life's journey?
Here's the bottom line, and it's a powerful one. Your journey to become you never, ever ends. Your personality isn't locked in when you're a kid. Far from it. Every new stage of your life brings a new challenge, and every single one of those challenges is a chance to grow. And most importantly, you're not just a passenger on this ride. You are an active participant. That ego of yours, it's your partner, helping you adapt, create meaning, and shape who you become.
You know, Erikson's theory isn't just some dusty old academic concept. It's a really powerful lens for looking at your own life. It gives you a way to make sense of the challenges you've already faced and a kind of map for what might be coming next. So, it leaves us with a final question for you to think about. Looking at those stages, which one are you in right now? And what's the big challenge you're facing?